So, hi, I'm Cindy Antonio. I am your K-8 member at large. I am an elected official. And Rita, who's my assistant, down there waving so nicely with her Halloween background. Um, if you, we are recording this, so if you have questions, you can ask them. You can put them in the chat directly to myself or one of the other co-hosts. Rita's a co-host along with our two presenters today. And this is a system that I found out about a year ago and have been playing around with, and I feel somewhat comfortable with this. And this is something that I think was long coming for CMSD. This is for both teachers and paraprofessionals. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And Dean, you're up.
Okay, well, thanks, Cindy. Like I was saying before, the first part is, this is a big change on how they did things. This was implemented, I believe it was finally implemented in May of 2019. So it's been a year and a half. Why did Cleveland schools, go to this retirement manager? Well, a lot has to do with tax law changes that occurred in 2009 regarding 403B plans. Regarding loans, basically school districts then had to have a plan document for the 403B and had to be able to live up to that. Well, it becomes a little bit harder when these multiple vendors, at one point when I was an advisor working with the employees of Cleveland schools, there was 97 vendors. There was no way to kind of coordinate between all those different vendors. It is now down, I believe, to 13 or 14. I don't remember the exact number. So Cleveland schools in 2018 went out looking for more of a compliance tool to be able to coordinate between, even though the vendor, the number of vendors has been drastically reduced, it's still a big number. So they went out and looked and bid it out to all the different companies and looking at who had the best tool, for compliance, cost, all the other things. They did choose us for a retirement manager. Now, I will say this, we do provide this to the school district at absolutely no cost. Retirement manager is run through a separate division of our company. I have no access to anybody's records, none whatsoever. There is a wall between us, myself, Mike Pasak, who would be the advisors that would be in the school. Obviously, we're not going to schools now. There is a clear delineation between retirement manager run by Versco and our company, AIG Retirement Services. So really it was done because of some law changes. It really serves two purposes. One, with 13, 14 different vendors, what Cleveland schools was doing was every pay period, they were having to remit to each company in a separate way. Boy, that's not very efficient use of time. So one piece is what it does is what's called common remitter. So the schools get to remit one remittance for everybody's 403B. The vendors, all the different companies can then reach in and they pull out their portion, and they have no access to anyone else's records, but it's separated out. So one, it's common remitter. It just a huge amount of efficiency was gained at the school board. The other part is, and you'll see that maybe a little bit more in the demo site, was compliance. It used to be, if somebody had a hardship distribution, it was, there was the rule, if you took a hardship distribution, that you had to stop contributions for 6 months. Well, if your vendor, AIG or Avoya or an AXA, didn't tell, the schools about it, they would never know. Loans, if there's defaulted loans, you can't take other loans even if you had different vendors. Well, the schools had no way to know about it. So all the vendors feed data back in. So there's a constant exchange of information. So for compliance purposes and for efficiency purposes of remitting one time instead of 13, 14 different vendors. That's why it's there. And again, they evaluated all the different companies that had a tool like this. And we use this tool, Cleveland State uses it, Cuyahoga Community College. They chose us, but again, this is provided at absolutely no cost. We realize the importance of these efficiencies for the school district, and we offer it for all of the places that we utilize it, no cost whatsoever. So that's why it exists. So it may seem a little bit different because it got rid of the paper. Any questions on that? Well, then let me share the screen. I'm hoping everyone can see this. What I did was, what is the best way to access Retirement Manager? Well, there's really a couple ways. One, the best way to access Retirement Manager is through the CMSD site inside of Insight. I actually downloaded this from the benefits site from CMSD, and they did a nice job of explaining where this is. So if you go to the CMSD website and you go to staff and Insight, obviously I can't do it because I don't have the credentials to go beyond that. My apps, 403B, and then Retirement Manager, or you could use resources, then support Retirement Manager once you're in Insight. Either way, you can find that. The reason it's better that way is there's less searching to do. If you're just looking for it, I'm hoping everyone can see this, and Cindy will be handing this out later. But myretirementmanager.com will also get you there. But then you also have to search for which employer you're at. So Cleveland Schools. So it's always better to access it through your intranet site because it's particular to only CMSD. I'm going to go through most of this through the demo. But this piece, and again, it's on the CMSD site. But Cindy, I don't know if you have it. I'm happy to send this to you because I have it, so it's easy to, instead of having to do 3, 4, 5 clicks on the site. That way you can just post it.
I know I have this worksheet right here that you're showing that I can send out.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah. I pulled this right off the CMSD site. When you're logging in, and I'm going to show you this, the first time you'll have to set up a profile, and CMSD for security purposes uses your employee ID and not your social security number. So the biggest issue is those that say have been retired for 20, 30 years. Have no idea what their employee ID is, or even if they may have had it at the time they retired. And then we're going to go through taking the loans and hardship withdrawals and different things. So again, the best way to access it is through Insight, your intranet on the CMSD website. It's going to save you a couple steps. Didn't mean to do that. Let me move this out. Any questions on any of that? I mean, pretty straightforward. And again, happy to answer any questions as they come up.
I have a question.
What I wanted to go ahead.
Okay, I'm noticing that you're saying that it says Insight and we're doing it through intranet. But since we're not actually in physical CMSD buildings, we should then use that My Retirement Manager link instead?
I don't know necessarily the process. I'm assuming there's a sign-in as an employee that you don't have to be in the building.
Yeah, RJ, I just did this today, And you do not have to be on the intranet. You can be on the internet.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I just know when I clicked on it, it was asking me for my credentials, on my, pick an account through Microsoft and things like that. And I don't have credentials for CMSD. Again, I'm not familiar necessarily with Insight, but I'm just using that from the CMSD's website when I pulled down the FAQ.
Dean, it will.
It just saves one step using that.
Yeah, Dean, it will
Go ahead.
ask us for our CMSD email address. So you have to have that and definitely your employee ID number. And then, Dean, you might talk a little bit about the password. I know the password has to be, they're really picky about the way the password has to look. So it's like a capital letter,
Okay.
a lowercase. This is a very secure thing. There are multiple layers of security that we have to go through in order to get into actually changing our amounts.
Okay. So yeah, let me go through that. Let me stop sharing here because I'm going to share a different screen. One second. The first time that when you go to the retirement manager site, I got things popping up like crazy. This is the first area that you will see. This is the retirement manager. So if you click on retirement manager from inside, the CMSD website or even my retirement manager, all you would do the very first time is you would click I'm a new user. This demo isn't perfect for that, but I just kind of want to show you what it looks like. So here in reality, can everyone see that? I'm used to, on WebEx, I'm used to having a bar around the screen I'm sharing. So here I was able just to, put in, Cleveland schools. It's just, you wouldn't have that one step. You would want to put in, your last name, your birth date. These are things that I don't have. I don't have the defaults on that. When you put that in, it's then going to, they didn't give me any defaults on this demo site. The password, because it's the same as our website, you have to have an uppercase and lowercase letters. You need to have numbers, and there is a particular. I believe you need to have a special character, but not all the special characters are there. When you get into that site, that page, and I can't get beyond this because I don't have the employee ID. It'll prompt and it'll give you what you can put in, and then you'll set up it's the similar things. You'll have you can name a picture. So when you log in, if you see a different picture, after the first time, then you know that maybe something isn't right. But since we're dealing with money, we want to make sure that the passwords are very strong. But on the tutorial, and we can show that to you. It kind of goes over that also.
So we are going to have to give the last four of our Social Security numbers.
I believe that, I believe once you go in, because this is a demo site. It's not the one that would go to CMSD's. I don't have access to that.
Yes, Dean, you have to give over.
I think it's only the ID, or does it, Cindy?
Yes. Today I had to, because I played around in my site today, so I would be somewhat familiar with it. But yes, you have to give the last four digits of your Social Security number in order for it to be continued. Now, when this first came about, I did ask extensive questions like, okay, I'm putting this out on the internet. How secure is it? And they kept reassuring me that this is very secure. It's fine. Once I hit continue For me, it asks me another question. It asks me like, what elementary school did you go to? That there's like 5 different questions I chose that it could randomly ask me. So I don't know which question it was going to ask me, but today that was the question they asked me was what was my elementary school I went to? So I had to know the answer to that one. And then there was even another question about like the pictures. I had to point to like which ones had a picture of like a fire hydrant in it. So I had to like click on all of them that had fire hydrants. Then it allowed me to actually go into my actual account to look at things. If you don't, if you put something in here wrong, it'll tell you you're wrong and it'll make you redo it. You only get, and Dean, you might know this, you only get like 3 chances. And once you put something in here wrong like 3 times, it locks you out for so many hours. And then you have to come, then you can try again.
Thank you.
Again, all it's kind of, I know it can be a pain at times, anytime you're dealing with a website, it can be frustrating, but it's purely done, because the schools have uploaded all this information. Everything's secure. I've never heard of anyone being able to hack in, all the other things, but that's why we want to make sure, that beyond any type of doubt that all your personal information is secure, that nobody else has access to it. And on that FAQ, at the very bottom, there is a phone number for retirement manager support. So if you're having trouble with it, of course, and I know Mike Pasek, who's also on the call, has helped a number of CMSD employees help them get set up too. So, if you're having individual things, we could help you get set up, just through a WebEx, walk you through step by step. But now what I kind of wanted to do was just go through a demonstration of what it looks like once you're in. So if you notice, now once you've set it up originally, you're going to have a picture. And if that picture doesn't match up with what you chose, and then we know that there's an issue. I've not heard that that's ever been a problem. So this is what the first page that you go into is going to look like. So I'll kind of go through each section. The first section is what most are going to use. If you want to change or start your contributions, you're just going to click the 403B. It may look slightly different because, again, it's Cleveland's. This is a demo site. I don't have access to Cleveland's. You guys will have biweekly pays. It'll have all the available pays. In the paper world, we'd always be in there saying, okay, well, hopefully I can get, hopefully if we send this over or whatever, we'll try to get it in for this pay. You were never fully sure exactly when the changes or the start or the stop that you put in was going to take effect. Here, you get to actually just pick the date. Then you would just click next. And then here, so for this person, again, there's 3, under this example, there's 3 providers. This person's saving $300. They can, keep working with ongoing contributions if they wanted to change how much they put in on a one-time deal, or you could stop contributions. So this would be a way that, if you just went in here, again, they don't offer the Roth. You could just click next. So here your election was stop contributing. If you wanted to get a confirmation, you can, and then you would just click submit. So on each one, I'm just going to kind of go back. Not letting me go back? You can always start over. So if you would just click ongoing, you'd be able to, this one is kind of, because again, it's, kind of a demo site. You would be able to change this number right here and then be able to say which provider this is going to go to. So you just follow the steps one by one. Any questions on that?
Yes. If you only
Yes,
have
go ahead.
if you have one provider there, it's just going to be one listed there then, right?
No, well, in reality, you have the ability at Cleveland Schools, because there's 13, 14 different providers available. This is a place where you would be able to stop and start. So, Cindy, I don't know on yours, when you went in, did it show more than one provider?
So for me, mine shows where most of my paycheck goes into one account. Then I have some money that goes in a separate savings account. So it showed that. And then it showed my 403B account. It showed that. Now it also will show several other 403B companies that the district will allow our money to go into, but I do not have an account with any of them. So I have those all set to zeros because I don't have an account set with them. I cannot send money over to Voya, or I'm sorry, I can't send money over to Valak because I don't have an account with them. I would have to call one of Dean or Mike and set up an account, and then I could start transferring how much money I wanted to put in them. Because I have a 403B account set up with a different company, I can change how much I put in. Let's say I do have an account with Valak. I can say that they're provider 3 for me, because one provider is Third Federal, another provider is the Teachers Credit Union, and then my third one is my 403B with Valak. I could say, well, I know I'm going to be home until January. So instead of just putting $50 a month in, I'm going to put that up to $150 because I'm not having to drive to and from school. I go in here and I put $150, and then it automatically, starting not the next paycheck, but the paycheck after that, it'll start taking that much money out of my account. That being said, then in January, I need to come back in here and change that amount back down to 50 if I'm back commuting to and from school, if I wanted to change it.
Cindy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
My understanding is, it's Joe Nagorski. My understanding is that when I did this, you said that there were several providers up there. I didn't think that it would be like the checking, savings account, like if you have Ohio Educational Credit Union. I didn't think any of that would be here. I thought this was purely just going to be changing 403B contributions. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, I've begged Michael Kolsar for years to fight about getting the district to allow us to have the options to invest in different places. And he keeps telling me that there's a holdup. And when I spoke to the AXA representatives, a delegate, whenever the last one of those was, or the leadership retreat, he basically said that they've been fighting with the district about it. And I'm just wondering, is this showing up in here as options, but are they realistic options? Because the district doesn't seem to allow us to want to go with more than one.
Well, in the contract, there's language. Well, let me say two things. In the contract, there's language about how many places my paycheck can be divided up into. That's the first thing. Second thing is you can only be in one 403B company at a time. So all your money has to go to Voya, if that's my company. So all my money goes to Valak. But that being said, if I had a 457, I could split my money between my 403B and my 457. And I do have a 457 meeting coming up if the guy from the state will ever get back in touch with me.
So do those two things have to be, those two don't have to be technically from the same company though?
Your 457 and your 403B would not be from the same company, no. but your 403Bs can only be with one company at a time. And Dean,
there
correct me if I'm
But
wrong.
there are companies out there. I don't know if Dean can speak to this, but there are companies that have the 403B and the 457 together, correct or no?
But our contract, we have to go with one specific place for our 457.
Okay, the Ohio
Correct.
compensation.
Correct.
Okay.
Ohio deferred compensation is
Yeah.
the only option on the 457 side.
And that will show up. Well, that doesn't show up here. That's separate, correct?
That, from my understanding, that should show up here. From the way this was explained to me. This was explained that any place that my
No,
money,
it may be, but I don't think changes can be made on retirement manager to change your 457. The state of Ohio deferred comp uses a different system. You know, there's a state law in the state of Ohio that mandates that any organization that can offer a governmental 457 plan must offer the state. So they have a good program, but you know, they kind of run it in their own way because they don't have to be accommodative to the school districts. The reason that you can do, and again, it's a school district rule that you can only be contributing to one 403B vendor at a time. That doesn't mean that you can't have more than one company. You can only contribute to one. The reason the 457 is separated is based on a law that changed in 01 that said contributions to a 403B do not count against contributions into a 457 and vice versa. So that's why they allow for both contributions at the same time.
I see. Okay, and that will show up here. And then Cindy, you did say that you're checking for Ohio Education Credit Union, and any disbursements from your paycheck would be here as well.
I do believe when I looked at it this morning, but that was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I've taught like 5 classes since then. But I do believe those were also all in here.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Joe, I will say that I have the paperwork right in front of me about Ohio deferred comp, so I will scan it and put it as one of the attachments for today's meeting.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cindy, I didn't think the other stuff was on there, but it's good that it would be.
Again,
So
I checked at
so
8 o'clock.
again-
I'm putting my disclaimer. I checked at 8 o'clock this morning, and I've taught 5 classes since then. And I teach
Okay.
middle school, so I'm putting that ultimate disclaimer there.
Okay. Yeah, because this is designed more as a 403B compliance tool. But so, you know, to change the contributions, it's the very first option. You can stop, start, or change. There will be a warning up here that says you must first set up an account before you can elect. Now, in reality, we know, you could elect to have money go to a company without setting up the account. Problem is, you know, many of the vendors would just send it right back anyway because we have no place to put it. So it is always best, regardless of whether you can override the system or not, it is always best to set up the account first, because that allows us or whoever you choose to, you know, capture your allocation choices, capture your beneficiaries, and other pertinent information that is very important to have on a long-term investment. And all the vendors, and I'm going to go through where you can find all the vendor information also. On this site, you can also request a loan. Ooh, I don't know why it took me here. Let me just get back in. So if I wanted to request a loan, again, the rule is this would be great. I was going to say if it was working. The reason loans are important is, you know, the 403B plan at Cleveland Schools allows for you as an employee, when you have a balance in a 403B, you can borrow your own money. You can borrow up to 100% of your account value. Really, it winds up being more like 95%, up to 10,000. Above 10,000, it's 50%. So if I have 20,000 in the account, I can borrow 10. If I have 10 in the account, I can borrow 10. Maximum loan is 50,000. But the reason this compliance is very important is even if you had multiple 403Bs across a spectrum of providers, the law says if you default on a loan while still working, you are ineligible for taking another loan. Well, years ago, prior to 2009, there was no way for Cleveland schools to know if somebody had defaulted on a loan. So Cleveland schools has been signing off with the hope that they were getting all the good information. Now that everything's fed in, the school will know, whether you have defaulted loans. So that's the main purpose on this. So here, do you have any other loans outstanding? And then here, this is saying, you have an account balance of 5,000 on these. So I'm just going to say you're going to take out $2,000 in a loan from one provider. There, you will get these. You will get a just letting you know that the certificate that you can print out is only good for a certain period of time. I had just done this before I went in here. Let me try to start this again. Again, it's a demo site. Oh, it's probably because there's a certificate out there. Probably because I was playing with it earlier. So you can see that here I put the 2,000. Ultimately, just trying to see here if it's going to be in. Let me go back to the certificates, because again, I was messing around on this. So on here, on these loans, I have an approved.
Can I ask a question?
So because I had gone through this, it's declining, but here I had an approved. It's calling up, I'm hoping. And this is what a certificate would look like. So if you were taking a loan, the process would be you would contact the provider that you have. So if it's us, our client care center, the advisor that has been working with you, or you could always do that with other, with whoever you're working with, and get their paperwork. In the past, you would have had to then send that form to Cleveland schools, and hopefully you got to the right person. Hopefully they signed it quick. Obviously you're taking a loan, so you need the money. So here, all you would do is then print that certificate, match that up with the paperwork that was given to you from your provider, and then you can send those things together. This is done in lieu of the signature from the plan administrator at Cleveland Schools.
Yes, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mrs.
Yes, go right ahead.
Oh, so how do you pay? I guess you're going to tell us how you pay the loan back. How do you pay the loan back?
Loans are paid back. Every company is going to probably do it slightly different. Cleveland Schools does not do loans as the payback of loans as a payroll deduction. I can speak for my company. What we do is we set up a bank draft. Because again, with so many different vendors, it would be very difficult for Cleveland to set up a payroll deduction, as say most 401ks have. So you pay it back generally through bank draft. And you can borrow money for up to 5 years for any purpose. 10 years, you can extend it to 10 years for the purchase of a primary residence. So you can amortize it over a longer period of time.
What's the rate
But
that we
that-
would be borrowing? I'm sorry.
Very good question. The way it works for us, I can't speak for every company depending upon how it would be, is basically the cost on the loan is 3%. The rate on the loan is 3% above the minimum guaranteed interest rate. We still pay you the interest rate on what you've borrowed. We're going to charge 3% above that. So that's pretty standard in the industry. So it's going to be in that range, 2-3% in net cost. The reason loans are important is because on a 403B, the government has given you as employees a financial incentive, a tax break, to put money into these accounts. You put in 100, your net pay drops by 75. You're using 25 extra dollars that you would have normally sent to Uncle Sam in the form of taxes to save for retirement and let that money grow. Well, the government puts restrictions on access to that money. That you must be either 59 and a half or separated from service to access that, but you must be 55 or older at the time of separation or 59 and a half or older to avoid the government 10% penalty. So if you were 40 years old and all of a sudden needed some money, you can borrow you can borrow from yourself and then pay yourself back, and the money gets back in there for the reason you started it, for retirement. I will say this, regardless of who your vendor is, I would never go into a 403B saving for retirement because it has a loan provision, but it's nice that it's there just in case.
I'm sorry, one other part to my question. Also, you said that if you take out a loan, you can't continue to put money into your 403B. You are just paying it back at that point, or can you still continue to put money in?
In reality, on a loan, you have the ability to not only take the loan, but you have the ability and pay back based on the schedule, but you also have the ability to continue to contribute. What I had said before, and we've gone over a lot of information, what I had said before was if you have a defaulted loan, you can no longer say through Cleveland Schools, you can no longer take another loan, but you can still contribute if you would like.
Thank you.
So, happy to provide the info. So, this was one of the things, the loans were one of the main reasons that Cleveland Schools had decided to do, to have a compliance support tool because they were having a difficult time certifying whether somebody had defaulted loans out there. Another part, what we can look at is distributions. If I needed to do a hardship withdrawal is saying I have no other access to money, so I need to access my retirement plan, my 403B, because I have met a certain qualifiers. So the nice thing here is there's always going to be the company's form. And then, we will then ask you, to certify the reason for the hardship, because that's mandated by the government. The main part, what I wanted to go over here was, as we talk about a 403B, this kind of shows a lot of the things that we can do. When are you eligible to do a hardship distribution? Technically, you should always look at a loan first, because a hardship saying I've explored all other opportunities and there's no other way to get it. But as a hardship, there's a medical expense for you, a spouse or dependent. expenses directly related to the purchase of a primary residence, tuition or college-related expenses over the next 12 months, including room and board or rent, but not if you've already trying to pay yourself back, if you've already paid it. Prevent eviction or foreclosure, burial or funeral expenses, basically, expenses to repair damage to your home that is not covered by insurance. And then here's obviously, disasters things. Very limited number of things. And you have to be able to prove that what you're saying is true. So very limited. The rule is that you then need to stop contributions for 6 months if you take a hardship, but the government's great people. You have a hardship and they're still going to penalize that distribution 10% plus taxes. So I'm just going to show that real quick. Oop. It'll tell you what what you can access. I'm just going to put in $1,000 in medical expenses. And again, I click, get my certificate. And then all you have to do is print this and send it in with the paperwork that your provider is asking for. There's also on plan information. The nice thing here, this is personal to you. What are your account balances with each provider under Cleveland Schools plan, if you have it? Even on here, plan information. Again, this isn't particular to Cleveland Schools. I'm just trying to show where everything is. On, say, the 403B, you would then have all of the vendors listed. And you can click on this to go to the website, or there's probably going to be phone numbers and things like that. I know this was generally designed to how to change your contributions. And that's pretty simple as you go in. But I kind of just wanted to, give you all of what's in here. If you went to benefits office contacts, this is where the people in the benefits and payroll department is going to be listed. Of course, it's not going there. And then I'm not going to go through all of these. There's financial tools that, if you want, little tutorials on depending upon what's going on in your life. There's some online calculators and things like that. So the main things most people are using this for is to stop and change their contributions, loans, hardship withdrawals, and even if you've separated from service and you want to take a distribution, you log in and you would get another certificate. Once you're in it, you'll find it rather intuitive. Any questions?
I am going to start off by saying I did go back into mine, and Dean, you are right. No, I cannot access any of my savings accounts. It is all for my 403B account. So
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this is important. I went in on my other computer real quick. I'm like, oh, let me look. This is important, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a new system where before we would have to call up our provider and say, oh, I have to show up to your place, sign some paperwork, and they had to take it someplace else. Whenever we wanted to change our amount, this allows us more control over changing our money and really looking at how we can either increase or decrease that amount that we are putting into our 403B accounts. I'm also going to say, that not a lot of our members take advantage of a 403B account. It is very shocking that something like only 38%, and that number could be a little bit higher because that's what the district gave me last year, of all of our CTU members take advantage of a 403B account. Many of our new members do not take advantage of 403B accounts or 457s. So please look at money you're putting aside, see if you should put more in, see if you need to change anything, but this is something that you can really take advantage of.
I have a couple questions when you finish.
Sure, Kim, go right. I'm sorry, Kimberly, go right ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Just to clarify, the dean say that if you took out a hardship, you cannot contribute for 6 months.
Yes,
Okay, and
that had been a federal law that has, the law has kind of changed with some, with what was called the Secure Act, but I do not believe Cleveland schools adopted that, which kind of makes sense when you think if I'm saying I have no other access to money and I just absolutely have to take this, kind of makes sense to get yourself back on your feet that you don't contribute so that you can kind of build up a savings and things like that.
okay.
But yeah, that has been the rule, yes.
Okay, thanks. And then I have 2 more questions, sorry. My other question is, if you take out a, not the hardship, the other loan, the regular loan,
The
and
loans, yes.
you don't pay back right away, can you pay back like years later or a year or 2 later? How does that work?
Well, what happens is the government mandates that you can pay back you can put your payments back in no longer than on a quarterly basis. Now, most don't do it quarterly, but no, the payments will start immediately, and most now do it on a monthly basis. Again, bank draft. If you happen to default and not pay, and which doing it bank draft hasn't happened as much as when people used to have to write a check. But if a loan is defaulted, the loan still sits inside of your account because you haven't met a distributable event yet. Again, precludes you from taking another loan. You always have the ability to then write a check and pay it off in full if you have the wherewithal at whatever point. Most don't do that. But you can do that. But the loan is set up for, say, 5 years or 10 years for the purchase of a primary residence. But the loans, the repayment will start within that first quarter.
Okay. And then my final question is, I know I've heard that you, like when you retire, that you will have to roll your 403 over to the district, or the district roll it over to the retire. I don't know, something like that. What is your suggestion?
These are all really good questions. There is no rules whatsoever when you leave Cleveland schools that you must take. These are individual accounts. There is no rule whatsoever that when you leave that you have to take your money and take it out of the 403B, take it out of Cleveland schools plan. You should only consider taking it out of the plan when whatever the new investment is going to be betters your position with whoever you want to work with or whatever it may be. So there's advantages of keeping the money in a 403B. There's advantages of IRAs, but we have to make sure the investments are best for you, and that the movement of the dollars makes sense. So I'm not going to answer individual questions on that, but no, it is not true that you do not have to take any money out of the plan until the government mandates it now at age 72. There's actually some legislation, you're going to be at 75, where the government's saying you must start taking money out, provided you are retired at 72. And then it winds up being 3.5%, 4%. And each year, subsequent year, you have to take a little bit out. Government wants their taxes. That's the only time you have to do anything.
So you can keep it in when you retire and just get monthly payments payouts or something like that then?
Well, that's an individual question based on each company and each vendor. But most of the vendors, and I know there's a couple that are all that really kind of force that monthly payment on you. even if you don't need it. Many of them will let you take the money out in any manner that best suits your needs. That's what we do.
Okay.
You can take money out in any manner that you want, whether it's a monthly income or just take it as you need it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the answers to the questions.
Oh, no problem.
Any other questions?
And I would encourage everybody to, set up your, go into the accounts. I believe anyone that with a 403B should be in there. I don't believe they put everybody in the district, but I don't remember. It was a year and a half ago when I was helping implement this. The sooner you get passwords set up and things like that, actually the safer anything becomes. It's kind of counterintuitive. The more things I put online that it's safer. The more things that have passwords online, it's the same concept of, so if you have an account with us or an account with one of the other providers, I would encourage you, one, set up an account, set up your online access. It's the same concept as don't wait to do your taxes because someone can file taxes for you. One of our financial professionals in a different part of the state called me yesterday, and he got a letter that someone, he got a debit card for unemployment because somebody filed unemployment in his name. Same thing. I hear it before where people file income tax in somebody's name, and all of a sudden you file, and that the refund has been paid to somebody different. So the sooner you can put more protections, and that's why we go through all those passwords, the better. Now, if anyone has questions on this, I'm happy to help. Mike, as I mentioned, Mike Pasak, and Cindy has all his contact info, has helped many people, including employees that we don't necessarily work with. We can help you set up. If you just want to be guided through the process of setting up the account, we can, through a WebEx, we can just walk you through step by step if you prefer.
Hey, Dean, the question came up and somebody posted it in the chat. How do I know if I even have a 403B set up?
Well, I guess there would be two ways. Well, I guess three ways. One, logging into Retirement Manager. If you have a 403B, it's going to be in there. Another thing to look at is your paycheck. Your paycheck would have a deduction for the 403B on it.
And this, a 403B.
And I guess the third way, I would hope that you would be getting statements.
I couldn't set up a 403B when I was a kid. A 403B really is only when I actually got a job and started working for my school.
Cindy, great question. Being in this business for over 30 years now, I've always heard the term 403K, 401B. I've heard, it's, which makes sense that, the phrase, the phrasing of the 403B has been a little bit different. Everyone's heard of a 401K. 401Ks are the retirement plans for employees of for-profit organizations. 403B is for not-for-profit. 457 is governmental taxpayer supported. So the only way to contribute to a 403B, 401K, 457 is through your employer. And in reality, the only way to contribute to an IRA is an individual retirement account is through earned income from any source. So that doesn't matter who your employer is. But you're right, you can only have the 403B. Let's not confuse it if there's a beneficiary claim or things like that. You can only have a 403B by being employed, say, at the school district or United Way or something like that.
And any other question for our members? I sent Rita a couple things, so Rita and I are going to touch base as always after this. If you have any other questions, I put Mike's information in the chat. So if you'd like to copy that down, the first slide or the first page that Dean showed with all those questions and how to, that will be sent to you, or I will at the very least send it to all union reps. This retirement manager paperwork, the same thing. I'm going to send that either to all of you individually, or I will send it out to all union reps. This information, though, folks, is also posted on our CTU website. I have my own separate page there. It's called Salary and Benefits. Click on that, and all this kind of information is posted up there, along with this video will be posted up there. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to hit stop shortly. I would like to thank you all for coming. Dean and I will.
And yeah, this quick reference guide is everything I went through, but it's just one, step by step.
Mhm.
It just, instead of doing it in a demo, it's just a page. And again, and Cindy has that.
So thank you all very much. I'm going to